Hi everybody, my name is Nate Hare. I'm the Executive Director of Directed IRA and Directed Trust Company, the fastest growing self-directed IRA company in the country. And I'm happy to bring to you a special presentation for Roth and Legrand students that we're going to cover how to buy and sell real estate in self-directed IRAs. But not only that, talk about different strategies that fit best inside self-directed IRAs. And not only that, which strategies fit best in what types of self-directed plans. We're going to go deep dive on self-directed IRAs and give you an opportunity to grow massive amounts of tax-free wealth through self-direction. And the more you understand about self-directed IRAs as a real estate investor, you're going to be able to go out and attract more money from other people's self-directed IRAs to buy more real estate. So let's just jump right into it. Okay, so we're going to cover a couple different things today. I'm going to try to keep this pretty short. I'm going to try to keep it within 45 minutes, but you'll have my contact information in case you guys want to reach out to me, ask questions, whatever it is it may be. So we're going to talk about how to use self-directed plans, but we're going to go first on the basics. Okay, self-directed IRA review, we'll call it self-directed IRA 101. Talk about the different types of plans that can be self-directed, their tax benefits, before we dive into a little bit more advanced topics and talk about different ways you can invest a self-directed IRA, the different real estate strategies you can use, what strategies play best in a self-directed IRA. And I have real life examples from real life clients of mine that I've worked with over the past decade. I'm excited to do this for especially Roth and Legrand students because if you guys don't know, me and Ron go back about a decade too. When I first got into self-directed IRAs, I came and spoke at a lot of Roth and Legrand events. He's been great to me personally. I've learned a lot from him, and I am just gracious to be in his presence when he's talking about real estate because he is the king, he's the legend, and I like to just add the cherry on top to the strategies that he teaches his students and talk about how you can do those same strategies tax-free in retirement accounts. So we're going to talk about some case studies. We're going to talk about how to do creative financing in a self-directed IRA as well. We're going to talk about how to minimize taxes on that type of strategy. And we're going to get into some good stuff. And I'm going to give you some homework. I'm going to talk about what you do after you hear this information because I don't want any analysis paralysis by the time we're done with this. I want people to actually take action. So first, our disclaimer, as I always have to remind people, even though I have investment experience all the way dating back to 2004, I've been in real estate, I hold my loan officer's license, I've been in real estate ever since I got out of college. I can't give tax, legal, or investment advice. This is for education purposes only. We always encourage you to consult with your professionals before entering into any type of investment. So everything here is for education purposes only. I'm not telling you what you should or you shouldn't invest in. You guys get that. Here's a little background about me. Like I mentioned, right out of college, I knew I wanted to get into real estate. How I wanted to get into real estate, I wasn't quite sure. I was too young to know, too inexperienced to know. So I got into real estate through the mortgage business. I learned how to buy and sell real estate the conventional way. I owned 17 rental properties at one point. Realized I didn't really like being a landlord, but I liked the money in real estate. So I stuck to the financing or the mortgage end of it. But it wasn't until 2012 that I was recruited by a company that was doing self-directed IRAs. Now, at this time, I had no idea what a self-directed IRA even was. It took me about 2 weeks to wrap my head around, how is this even legal? How come I've never learned this in school? How come nobody in my real estate career ever told me that I can use my retirement money to buy real estate and pay no taxes? I thought I was just allowed to buy stocks. Well, what I realized is I wasn't the only one that thought that. 97% of Americans thought the same thing. And it blew my mind that this had to be information that we had to go seek out and find. So I've been passionate over the last decade that I want to make this information that's in your face. I want to make it so that people understand you can do a lot more with a retirement account. You don't have to be stuck in Wall Street, investing in paper assets with no collateral and assets that you probably don't even know how they work. But I run into real estate investors every day. I run into real estate investors of Roth and Legrand, students of Roth and Legrand, where their expertise is real estate. And if your expertise is real estate, you should be investing your retirement account into what you're knowledgeable about. And that's what self-directed IRAs allows you to do, is invest in what you know best. So I do have some accolades, top 100 people in finance by Top 100 magazine in 2019. Basically, long story short, I've been around the block. I've seen thousands, tens of thousands of investments in self-directed IRAs. There's not an investment strategy on this planet that I haven't seen done in a self-directed IRA. So I'm always eager to share that information and education with you guys at any time. So let's just go to the basics real quick. What is your IRA or 401k allowed legally to own? When you look at the tax code, IRAs and 401ks are not restricted from investing in almost anything. There's actually very little restrictions the IRS places on us when it comes to our investment options. They're more concerned with who we invest with versus what we invest in. When it comes to investment restrictions in an IRA, the only things you're not allowed to hold in your IRA or 401k, life insurance contracts and collectibles. Okay? That leaves a lot of investments out there on the table. Real estate just happens to be one of them. Real estate happens to be the one that most people understand. You walk up to the average American, most people know what a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house looks like and what they would do if they owned one, right? Even if it's a rental, most people know what to do with that. It's a very easy concept. But most people don't understand how the stock market works, right? They rely on their stockbroker and their advisors to basically produce their retirement for them. I think most people nowadays realize retirement doesn't come that easy. We cannot just put our money in the hands of somebody else and hope they help us retire for us. We have to take control and invest in the things that we're knowledgeable about. So when it comes to investment options, you can invest in anything you can hold title to, except life insurance and collectibles. Traditional investments are the things most people are familiar with. You hold those at a company like Fidelity or Charles Schwab. Those would be stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and CDs. When you want to invest outside of that, you can't do it with them, not because it's not legal, it's because they won't let you do it with them because they don't sell those investments. That's when you want to have an IRA with a company like Directed IRA, where we'll hold anything the IRS allows, but you have to tell us what the investment is. That's where the self-direction comes from. Self-direction is not a type of IRA, or self-directed IRAs is not a type of IRA. Self-direction is just a term. It's a marketing term. IRAs at Fidelity work no differently than IRAs at Directed IRA. The only thing that's different is they're a licensed securities broker that's selling investments. We're not. They're only going to hold what they sell. We have nothing to sell you, so our spectrum of investments you can hold with us goes very, very broad. And we stick to pretty much alternative assets. So if you want to buy things like rentals, fix and flips, commercial property, multifamily, apartments, land, syndications, cryptocurrency, promissory notes, secured by real estate, you do that with a company like Directed IRA. And I'll walk you through the process and show you how that works. But you do that with a company like us, and we walk you through the process. Very, very easy, especially if you've done it once or twice. Now, I want to start with this quote. Before we talk about the types of accounts that can be self-directed, I love this quote because I heard this from an asset protection attorney. Let me repeat. This is from an asset protection attorney, somebody that helps investors protect themselves from lawsuits. But he said this: people talk about asset protection as if a lawsuit is their worst enemy. My worst enemy is taxes because I know it's coming for me every single year. How do you avoid taxes every single year? By investing in accounts that aren't taxpayers. Investing in accounts that aren't taxpayers. This is the meat and potatoes of the presentation. This is the meat and potatoes of self-directed IRAs. We'll talk about strategies here in a second. But when you look at this slide right here, you want to be thinking to yourself, I want every plan I qualify for. Because each one of these plans here, by definition, is a tax-exempt trust. Tax-exempt trusts pay no taxes. Okay? Now, some of these IRAs work a little different on distributions, when you take distributions, or when you make contributions, but they pretty much work the same when you buy and sell investments within them. For instance, traditional IRA and Roth IRA, the difference there is when you put money in as a contribution, with the traditional IRA, you get the tax deductions. You get to write it off on your taxes the year you put it in. It doesn't make the taxes go away. You can buy and sell investments. You can buy and sell real estate in a traditional IRA. You don't have to pay any capital gains tax while it's being invested and while it stays in the IRA. However, you do pick up the taxes when you take distributions to yourself, preferably after 59.5. If you're going to take a small amount of money and make it larger, though, do you want to pay taxes when it's large, or would you rather pay taxes when it's small? Most people will say, I'd rather pay taxes when it's small. This is where the Roth IRA, I would say, outpaces and beats the traditional IRA, especially if you're investing in real estate with multiple income streams, real estate that appreciates over time, that where you can collect rents, or even, when we'll talk about this, real estate that you're buying using creative financing techniques, real estate you're buying on terms, real estate you're buying with seller financing, real estate you're buying subject to. These are small investments, upfront initial investments that can potentially over time turn into free and clear homes, right? So if you're doing investment strategies that take a small amount of money upfront and make it larger, I'm going to do that in a Roth IRA. Because the difference with a Roth IRA is when I put money into a Roth IRA, I don't get a tax deduction. It's considered after tax. I've already paid my taxes to Uncle Sam. It's the money left over in my pocket. So when I put it in my Roth, nothing happens. But the trade-off is, as I buy and sell investments in my Roth, it's all deferred, no capital gains tax. And when I take distributions, as long as I've had a Roth IRA for 5 years and I'm above the age of 59 and a half, every distribution from my Roth for the rest of my life is tax-free and penalty-free. It's called qualified distributions. Imagine owning 12 rental properties, and I'm saying this because I have clients that own 12 rental properties in a Roth IRA. Okay. These investments grow and appreciate in cash flow completely tax-free. But when you hit that ripe age of 59 and a half and you have now qualified distributions, here's what happens with those 12 rental properties that are owned inside your Roth IRA. The first of the month, as long as you've got them all rented, 12 rent payments come into your Roth IRA. No tax. And as long as you have qualified distributions, you could just take that big chunk of money monthly out to yourself, tax-free and penalty-free for the rest of your life. I have a client that owns 12 rental properties in a Roth. He takes a distribution about the 5th of every month after all the rent checks come in. It's about $15,000 he takes out monthly. That's his income, tax-free, penalty-free, and his account value on his IRA goes up every year. How's that possible? Because all he's doing is distributing the rents. He's letting the properties appreciate over time. This is true wealth building. This is how the rich get wealthy. All the people that are trying to convince you that 1031 exchanges and setting up Delaware trusts and all this stuff, that's the way to grow wealthy? No. The way to grow wealthy with real estate is to understand the types of IRAs that grow completely tax-free and how to live tax-free off the income from those investments for the rest of your life. So here's what you want to do. You want to strategize yourself to make as much money in a Roth IRA as possible so that when you get to 59 and a half, not only can you live tax-free off the distributions from the earnings of those investments, but you can continue to reinvest the Roth and keep it growing so that you can continue to take more money out of the Roth tax-free. And when you die, guess where those assets go? They pass to your beneficiaries as an inherited Roth IRA. And they get to take tax-free distributions for at least another 10 years. Now, this goes way beyond 1031 exchange, folks. This is true wealth building, and this is how to pass on generational wealth. So you could self-direct, though, a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. You can also self-direct if you're self-employed. Small business owners can self-direct simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, or even your own individual 401k. Now, these are all plans that we have here at Directed IRA. If you're self-employed, this is just like another page on the menu. Most of my self-employed individuals, if they have no common law employees, they're just a real estate investor, a real estate broker, a loan officer, they just work for themselves, okay? Even a spouse can be on your payroll, but nobody else. That solo 401k is probably one of the best things on earth, okay? Solo 401ks can also have a Roth component to them. And we'll talk a little bit about the advantages of solo 401ks. I'm just planting some seeds here for a second. But if you're self-employed, you should be thinking, I want a solo 401k and I want a Roth IRA, because those are two pages on the menu. You can max out a Roth IRA and still max out a Roth 401k, or even vice versa. People don't even realize that. You want to put more money in a Roth, max out your contributions in a Roth 401k, max out your contributions in a Roth IRA. Have your spouse also contribute to your Roth 401k, and have your spouse also have a Roth IRA for yourself. But if you can maximize this Roth component, maximize this Roth opportunity, you'll find that you have a lot more money to spend because Uncle Sam can't take any of it from taxes. So solo 401ks can be self-directed. HSAs and ESAs can also be self-directed, guys. So these are not retirement accounts, but these are today accounts. Health savings accounts are one of the greatest things that people don't even realize you can invest, let alone self-direct. I do a lot of private money lending. On any of my loans to real estate investors, I always include my Roth IRA as a piece of that loan, and I also include my HSA as a piece of that loan because they're two accounts that grow tax-free. The difference in those two accounts, though, is the interest income that I make on that note. In my Roth IRA, the money that goes to my Roth IRA, I have to wait until 59.5, which is fine to me. I can compound it, I can grow it. But the money that comes in from the piece of my HSA investment on that same note, I can use today. I can take it out tax-free to buy glasses, acupuncture, prescriptions, holistic medicine, vision, dental, all the things that I pay for today, I can pay with tax-free dollars through my understanding of how to invest and self-direct a health savings account. Same goes for education expenses for your kids or your grandkids. Coverdell Education savings accounts are another account that can be self-directed. And here's the cool thing. There's some cool strategies that you guys use right now that make payment that you can use and make payments today. I'm talking wholesaling, real estate options. When we talk about different strategies, when we look at these accounts, and we'll dive into this, sometimes different strategies play better in different plans too. Let's say that I'm buying a property subject to, where maybe there's no equity in the property, but I can take over the mortgage payments of a distressed seller and just put a renter in that house and have the renter pay off the note for me. Long-term play. Long-term play, where do you think I want that investment? A long-term IRA, right? Maybe my Roth IRA. I put it on the shelf, okay? I just put that investment, put that on the shelf, let a renter pay off the note. I own a house free and clear 20 years down the road. But if I'm doing a wholesale deal, okay. Well, wholesale deals, I might get paid in 8 weeks. I might get a wholesale fee of 20 grand. I'd love to use that 20 grand today or in 8 weeks as soon as that investment's done. What are the accounts that allow me to take a tax-free, penalty-free distribution today once I make it? The health savings account and the education savings account. So wholesaling and investments that pay off right away might be best suited for your HSAs and your ESAs for your kids and your grandkids. We'll talk a little bit about that. But you can also partner these accounts together, right? You can partner accounts together, but we're going to talk a little bit about what strategies fit best in that because I think you guys will have a lot of fun with that. Realize that account type matters, okay? Roth IRAs, HSAs, Roth 401ks, and ESAs are probably my favorite accounts. And we'll talk a little bit about, what might happen with a traditional IRA, because my first case study shows an investment in a traditional IRA where somebody wished they would have done it in a Roth IRA. And what's the solution to that? What if you already did an investment in a traditional IRA and wish you would have done it in a Roth? Is there a solution? Potentially. We'll talk a little bit about that. So let's look at some real deals. Okay, first, if you don't understand the process, here's the process in 3 easy steps. First, if you want to start self-directing and you want to start buying and selling real estate with whatever creative financing techniques or creative strategies you're using, you have to start from the beginning. You have to set up a self-directed IRA and fund it. You can't buy a property in your name and then try to put it in your IRA afterwards. You're the fiduciary to your IRA. You can pick the investments, but the IRA has to buy the investment from the beginning, and that's what you use a company like us, Directed IRA, for. So the first step of self-direction is just open an account with Directed IRA. The second step is you fund the account. You can fund the account one of 3 ways. Any of those plans that I mentioned, you can make a contribution to annually, each year. Each tax year, you can make a contribution to all those plans. Now, they have different account maximums that you can put in there or different contribution limits each year. But that's one way to put money in there is through contribution. The most common way that people fund these accounts is through transfer or rollover. Transfer from another IRA, rollover from another 401k. Once your IRA is open and funded, this is where the self-directed comes from, is you guys pick the investment. You tell us what to invest in, and normally, in most cases, we're going to process that investment through us, right? You send us a copy of the contract, you send us a direction of investment form, giving us the authority to make the investment, and the money comes right out of a directed IRA and straight to the title company or straight to the attorney's office. We're never handing the money to you to go buy real estate. That's a distribution, okay? We don't want that. So you have to process these investments through us, right? And you can get creative. I know Ron teaches about how to do it through a land trust. All of that works, but you still, at the end of the day, have to work with the custodian by setting up an account, moving some money over, and then we'll walk through the investment part of it based on how you're structuring your investment. So I played a lot of baseball in my years, so I like to think of things in baseball terms. So we're just going to talk about base hits and doubles right now. Let's talk about one deal that I had a client did. Her name was Denise. Okay. Now Denise was turned full-time real estate investor. She had a job, decent amount in her 401k, but definitely not enough to retire on. Now she's in her mid-50s. $375,000 is not going to get you very far in retirement. So she knew right away that she had to do something different. She hadn't seen her 401k move in any direction, and it seemed like the past decade. Obviously, she's getting eaten up with broker fees and commissions. She never saw any of her 401k value really increase that much. So she said, I want to start self-directing and I want to buy real estate. So what she did is she moved her old 401k to directed IRA and rolled that into, by default, a traditional IRA. Now, most of your 401ks are considered pre-tax. What that means is pre-tax usually rolls over into a traditional IRA. If you want to move pre-tax to an after-tax IRA, like a Roth IRA, you have to do what's called a conversion. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that at the beginning or at the end. But she rolled her old 401k, which was all pre-tax, and by default, that rolls into a traditional IRA. So what she did is she opened in a traditional IRA, rolled this money in, and then she went out and found an investment. Now, she found an investment through her local RIA, found somebody that was selling a fourplex in her neighborhood that they had fixed up a little bit. There wasn't much rehab that needed to be done. It was basically turnkey. So she decided this would be a good deal for her new self-directed traditional IRA. So what she did is she worked with Directed IRA. She sent us our direction of investment form that gave us the authority to buy the fourplex. She gave us a copy of the contract, which what she does is she negotiates the terms with the seller. We have no part of the negotiation. It's between her and the seller of the property. The only thing that's different in that legwork process is that the buyer on the contract is going to be her IRA, right? Or it's going to be the land trust, right? However you do it, it's not your name personally. Remember that. You're not buying this personally. Your IRA is going to be owning it, whether it's owning it through a beneficial interest of a land trust or it's owning it directly. Okay. So she works with us. The buyer on the contract in this case was Directed Trust Company for the benefit of her name and her IRA account number. That's the legal vesting on this investment particularly. Now, what we do at Directed IRA is we just follow her instructions as to where to move money. We don't give her the money as a distribution. We send the money directly to the title company, which included a $5,000 earnest money from her traditional IRA to the title company, okay? And the funding amount, once we funded the deal and worked with the title company, the total funding came from her traditional IRA. Important to know, once your IRA owns the investment, the IRA also must pay for the expenses and all the income must flow back to the IRA. Okay, nothing's touching her hands. So she had to pay a contractor, she redid some floors, she put some new paint up, and she had us deploy $20,000 from her traditional IRA to pay contractor Bob, let's just call him, okay? What she also did is she put a property manager in place. Now, you don't have to have a property manager in place. I would say if you just own one rental property, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, you can just tell the renter to pay rent back to Directed IRA. That's fine. But since she had multiple renters, she didn't want to have to do that to all the renters. Plus, she didn't want to deal with the headaches. She just wanted somebody to do it for her, which is perfectly fine. So she put a property manager in place, and here's basically what happens. After the traditional IRA owns the property through Directed IRA, okay, the property manager collects the rents. The property manager pays whatever expenses need to get paid. And then whatever's left over after the property manager takes his little fee, he sends that money back to Directed IRA. So all of the income coming back to the traditional IRA is all tax deferred. Now, a lot of people get confused. Nate, but I thought you could only put $6,500 in a traditional IRA each year. This is not contribution. Income is profit. Appreciation is profit. Rents are profit. Contribution is what you add out of your pocket to the account. She's not adding anything out of her pocket. This is just straight income. So, and because she didn't use any debt on this investment, she was netting about $4,200 a month back to her traditional IRA, which is phenomenal, okay? So, moral of the story is when we got to this, when I talked to her about this deal, she was about 2 years into this, okay? The current appraised value was now $497,000. She bought this at a pretty good time. She also bought this in the northern part of Houston, a place called the Woodlands, which was on fire back then. So the appraised value, the property goes up in value, and she had 24 months to collect rents, which by her calculation was about $100,800. if you just look at that rate of return, the appreciation and the cash flow that came in on this deal, it was 25.6% year after year. Total cash on cash return, 51.3%. Would you call this a home run? I'd call this a base hit. I see these kind of deals all the time. I would just call this a base hit or a double. But how could she have made this deal better? Remember, she's in her mid-50s, okay? She's in her mid-50s and she did this in a traditional IRA. What she foresaw coming is that she wanted to take distributions of this profit. And now she's realizing, well, shoot, I just made 51% return in 2 years, but when I take the distribution, I'm paying tax on that return because it's still in a traditional IRA. Now, why didn't she convert beforehand? The reason why most people don't convert, they're just scared to pay the taxes up front. So they just delay it and then they pay more taxes down the road. So here's what she decided to do. Okay, here's a trick that you can use. You can actually convert assets. It's different than you convert cash. Now, it would have been best for her just convert the cash because we know the value of cash. You convert $100,000 from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. We just send a 1099 to the IRS for $100,000. You pay taxes on $100,000 and now wham, it's in a Roth IRA that's completely tax-free and grows tax-free from that point on. But when you already own an asset, what happens? How do you convert an asset that's owned in a traditional IRA? You just have to find the value of the asset. So if we own this directed IRA, what we would ask her to do, and what we did ask her to do, is just provide us an appraisal. Get us an appraisal each year. If you want to start doing what's called a Roth conversion, okay, you can start converting this asset out of a traditional IRA and start moving some of it to a Roth IRA. Now, mind you, nothing's happening with the house. The house is, the fourplex is still the same. The only difference is when she started this investment, it was 100% owned by a traditional IRA. She decided she was going to start converting, but she couldn't convert the whole thing because remember, you got to pay the taxes. When you convert, you get a 1099 at the end of the year. You just treat it as income to yourself. So what's it cost you? Go to your tax bracket, whatever that additional income puts you, that's what you pay in taxes. So let's just say it's roughly 28-30%. Okay? So she can't afford to pay the taxes on the entire conversion, but what she's done over the last several years is she's converted a little bit each year. She gives us an appraisal and says, here's the value of it this year, and I want to convert $50,000 of this. So what's happening in the background that nobody sees is that she's got an asset that started 100% owned in a traditional IRA, and right now it's owned about 50% in a traditional IRA, 50% in a Roth. And every time she sends us an appraisal and a conversion form to convert a little more, a little bit of equity disappears from, or a little bit of ownership disappears from the traditional and gains in the Roth. Her plan is she wants to have this fully converted by the time she retires and by the time she passes away, because her ultimate goal is to pass this asset on. This is her legacy to her kids, because once she dies, and this is owned in an inherited Roth IRA, that asset will continue to appreciate and generate tax-free cash flow to her kids for at least another 10 years. If she didn't start this process and just kept it in a traditional IRA, what happens is, who pays the taxes now? The kids do. So what she's doing is she's creating generational wealth for the next generation. Not only wealth for her in retirement, but wealth for her kids. So this is how you can kind of, if you mess up, right, the best thing to do is just convert beforehand. But if you don't, well, there's a way you can still convert. And I will tell you this is probably the time you want to use the worst appraiser that you know. Don't use the appraiser that never gets you the comps and never gets you the value that you're looking for on some of your personal deals. Get that appraiser to give you just a conservative value on this property, because that's the value you're going to use and base your conversion off of. So that obviously was a deal that was done 100% cash. Now, do you need to use 100% cash to buy real estate in a self-directed IRA? The answer is absolutely not. The beautiful part is you guys are in a group that teaches you how to buy property with little out of pocket or even nothing out of pocket. Now, with an IRA, you got to come up with a little something out of pocket, but you can still use the same strategies and same leverage techniques, because IRAs can use leverage. IRAs can use money as leverage. I'm talking money from banks, money from other people who have loans already existing on properties, money from equity in properties that people are selling on terms or selling with seller financing. You can also leverage time. You're going to see in these case studies, or at least the second case study, how one of my clients basically planned out his investments based on how much time he had to retire. Perfect. Okay. There's different time and different strategies fit better in different types of accounts. And we kind of mentioned that. You need to use the money today, do it in an HSA or an ESA where you can use it now. The investment's not going to pay off for 10 years. Do it in a Roth IRA and let it sit in a Roth IRA, put it on the shelf. And you can also leverage your experience. That's one of the most powerful things that you get to leverage. You leverage the experience of yourself. You leverage the experience of the people in your group. You leverage the experience of Ron Legrand. You can leverage experience and help your experience add value to your retirement account when you self-direct. Now, everybody remembers this game as a kid, right? This is what you want to think about. You want to have this vision in your head before you do any deal in any type of account. I want to match the right shape to the right hole. Okay? You didn't realize this game was teaching you how to be a good investor, did you? You just thought it was teaching you about shapes. No, this game was teaching you about putting the right deals into the right plans. Let me repeat that. Putting the right deals into the right plans. Let's take a look at that. I kind of mentioned this early about 401ks. Now, one of the advantages of 401ks that get with IRAs is 401ks, a solo 401k. First, you have to be self-employed, okay? If you're not self-employed, become self-employed and then you can have a 401k. But if you are self-employed, a 401k gives you a couple bells and whistles. One, large contributions. You could contribute up to $66,000, or if you're above the age of 50, over $70,000 a year into a 401k. Much larger than your contributions to an IRA, where it's limited to about $6,500 a year. They're raising it in 2024 to $7,000 a year if you're under 50, $8,000 a year if you're over 50. So those contributions are relatively small, but if you're looking for a bigger money dump into a plan that won't be taxed, that you can invest in real estate, the 401k is going to give you the larger money dump based on contributions. The other thing is you're the administrator of your 401k. So there is some extra control with a 401k that you don't necessarily get with an IRA. An IRA, you can't self-control an IRA. You just have to work through the custodian. With a 401k, we can still set you up with a 401k, but oftentimes our investors choose to self-administrate it, meaning they've got the checkbook. You've heard of checkbook control LLCs. It's not quite that, but it's the same end result, where you have the checkbook and you can actually write the checks for the investment. Now, you still have to make sure all the money used in the 401k is for investment purposes. You're not writing checks to yourself. That would be prohibited, but it does give you a little bit more control. And in the event you're wheeling and dealing or buying property at auction, that control, having that checkbook in your back pocket might help. But here's the beautiful part about 401ks, is that 401ks have a built-in tax exemption to this tax called UBIT, or specifically UDFI. Now, what UBIT and UDFI is, first, it's a tax that IRAs have to worry about, but it's not something that should scare you. It's just something to be aware of. When IRAs or 401ks borrow money, okay, that money is coming from an outside source, whether it's a bank that has IRA loans or it's the equity from the seller if you're doing a seller finance deal. And that's all fine and dandy. You can use debt as leverage with an IRA or a 401k. The difference is IRAs pay tax on the debt. 401ks don't. IRAs pay tax on the debt. IRAs pay UBIT on debt leverage property. 401ks do not pay UBIT on debt leverage property. So where do I want to buy my debt leverage property? In an IRA or a 401k? Again, match the shape to the hole. I want to leverage as much as possible in my 401k because I know not only do I make tax-free income on the money my 401k invests, but I also make tax-free money on the money it leverages too. So let's take a look at this. Buddy of mine, Randy, okay, Randy was self-employed. He's a real estate broker, okay, works for himself, no common law employees. He didn't even start with a large amount of money. He only had $5,000 to put into his 401k, but he knew he could use leverage. So he set up a solo 401k with us, made a contribution of $5,000, went on the prowl looking for investments. Now remember, when you're out there wheeling and dealing, you want to have in the back of your head, you want to be looking for deals for yourself, but you also want to be looking for deals for your IRAs, your 401ks, your HSAs, and your ESAs. You got a lot of people that you're shopping for. So he found this particular deal. He found a deal where he met a lady that had just lost her husband. Okay, the lady was a widow. Her husband had these 3 warehouse units that were now basically managed by her. She never had to manage them before. They didn't have a property manager. Her husband handled it all. She didn't need cash. She liked the income that the warehouses were generating because they had 3 paying tenants. Well, as soon as the husband died, they had 1 paying tenant. One tenant started paying very, very infrequently. One tenant just stopped paying at all. But she wasn't knocking on the door every day to try to get them to pay. She didn't have a property manager she can call. She just kind of dealt with it, but then she just got tired of dealing with it. So she wanted a solution. She didn't need to sell it. She didn't really need the cash, but she did like the income that was being generated to her in retirement. So my friend Randy went out there and basically said, well, if the income is what you're most concerned with, what if I can structure this deal in a way to where I can get you about the income that you're receiving right now, but you didn't have to ever deal with the tenants? She's like, that sounds great. I'd love that. He said, well, I think I can make that happen. Here's how we can structure this deal. You own these 3 warehouses free and clear. I've got $5,000 in a 401k. I can give you that $5,000 as a down payment if my 401k can carry back a note on the 3 warehouse units. And they structured a pretty good deal. The note value or the purchase price was way below market value. He calculated the payments based on what she was already currently receiving. So this just wasn't like thrown against the wall to see if it sticks. He looked at what she was receiving and said, I'll make the payments equal to what you're receiving, but you don't have to deal with the tenants. I'll deal with the tenants. I'll be the owner. I'll get a property manager. And what I'll do is I'll make you note payments every single month. She said, that's great. So we take title to this property in the name of the 401k with a $5,000 down payment, and we carry back a note from the seller. Now the borrower on the note is the 401k. Are we worried about UDFI or UBIT in this case? No, because it's done in a 401k. It wouldn't have been bad in an IRA, but even better in a 401k. So here's what happens going forward. Every single month, the property manager, the new property manager, collects the rents from 3 paying tenants. By the way, we kicked out 1 tenant, put a paying tenant in there, rehabilitated the one that was paying infrequently, and the 3rd tenant was always paying on time, so now we got 3 paying tenants. Those rents are now going to the 401k, which is now the new owner. That 401k is now dishing out a note payment to the widow. Everybody's happy. This goes on for 16 months. 16 months later, tenant number 3, the good tenant, says, hey, I'd like to buy my warehouse. Can I own it? I'd like to buy it. And property was on fire at this time in Houston. And they said, yeah, I'll sell it to you. What do you want to buy it for? So they offer up a purchase contract, or a sales contract in this case, to sell warehouse number 3 to the tenant for $100,000. Okay. That $100,000 sale was enough to pay off the existing note to the widow, which left in the 401k owned 2 cash flowing warehouses. And what did he have to use to do this deal? $5,000 from the beginning. How much capital gains tax did he have to pay? Even though this was very, very highly leveraged, about 95% debt leveraged, how much capital gains tax did he have to pay because he did it in a 401k? 0. Okay. How much money is he paying in taxes going forward with the cash flow coming into his Roth 401k? 0. If he sells both warehouses today, which are basically $100,000 a piece, $200,000, how much capital gains tax does he pay? 0. He did this in his mid-30s. He's off to a great start towards retirement by taking a $5,000 investment and turning it into $200,000 by using creative financing, using his network, going out there and talking, negotiating win-win scenarios, and doing it in a plan that will never be taxed, even on the debt, which he got rid of through the sale of the 3rd warehouse unit. Great, great strategy, something to think about. So here's another thing. And this is a quote I love. Little hinges swing big doors. There's a lot of creative strategies you can use. And let's talk about subject to. Here's why I love subject to, because subject to works so great in an IRA, especially if you've got a little bit of time to grow your IRA. Let's talk about my client, Paul. Okay, Paul had a 401k at a job that he worked at. Okay, remember, 401ks by default, if they're pre-tax, they roll into traditional IRAs. So he got full-time into real estate. He moved his 401k into a traditional IRA, but he realized that he had some time on his hands and he was going to grow this $70,000 to a much, much bigger amount. So what he did is what Denise didn't do, which is he converted the $70,000 first, ripped the Band-Aid off, said, let's convert the entire thing. I'll pay the taxes today so that I don't have to pay the taxes in the future. So we converted that traditional IRA before he made any investments to a Roth IRA. Now the taxes don't come out of the conversion. We just send a 1099 to him for $70,000. So all $70,000 stays in an IRA, just goes from traditional to Roth. He gets a 1099, pays the taxes on it. So he's got $70,000 in a Roth IRA that he can invest. Now he was strategic in what he wanted to do. He said, I've got to get creative with this $70,000. I can go out and I can leverage bank financing. That's fine. But the banks that loan money to IRAs want 30 to 35% down. I'm only going to be able to pick up 2 properties in that case. He goes, I want to do something a little bit more creative. This is around the time where people's equity was shaved in half, right? You guys remember 2008, 2009, even coming out in 2012. A lot of people lost 50% of equity in their property. A lot of people lost jobs, okay? This was an opportunity where people started buying property subject to. This is where the first time I learned about subject to was when people were finding solutions to homeowners that had no equity in their property and they couldn't sell and they were facing foreclosure because they either lost their job, they couldn't pay the property taxes, whatever it is that happened to that homeowner. It wasn't the house that was the problem, it was the mortgage that was the problem. So this investor, Paul, and other investors were solving that problem, the mortgage, by saying, I'll pay the mortgage going forward. Deed the property to me. I'll even give you some money to walk. I'll give you $5,000 in your pocket if you can just title this property to me, and I'll save this property from going into foreclosure. That way you can go on and buy a property without having a foreclosure on your credit. Sometimes that's the best case scenario in a tough situation. So he decided, I'm going to do one deal a year, and I'm going to look for one deal a year that I can buy subject to. And I'm going to use my Roth IRA, my self-directed Roth IRA. Now, long story short, he only had to come up with about $10,000 to $15,000 per deal. Okay. Some of these were 2 weeks away from foreclosure. Some of these were just expired MLS listings that he found that were just distressed situations that they couldn't sell because there's no equity. Right. So he was very specific in what he was looking for. Distressed situations, properties with little to no equity that beginning investors were passing on, okay, because they couldn't figure out how to make money on it today. He's not worried today. He's trying to make money tomorrow. Okay, properties that were in good condition, that didn't need a lot of rehab, and they were in good areas. His biggest thing was, I just want to make sure the rents in the area will cover the mortgage payments. Because if I can catch up the mortgage payments, and my initial investment is catching up the mortgage payments, giving the homeowner some money to walk, and I can put a renter in there immediately, and that renter can pay me rent or my Roth IRA rent that will cover the mortgage payment, that's a perfect situation. I just want to keep that on the shelf and let that build in my Roth IRA. Now, back then, rates were pretty good too. So he's getting a fixed rate mortgage that's already on the property. So here's the other thing is, remember, this UDFI tax is going to kick in now because he didn't do this in a Roth 401k, but he did this in a Roth IRA. But I'll tell you, he did this smartly because you can even use a Roth IRA and still get away with paying no capital gains tax as long as you hold the properties until the note is paid off. Because once the note is paid off, guess what's no longer on the property? Debt. If you don't sell the property, there's no UDFI on the capital gains to worry about. Now, you do have a little bit of UDFI in the net profits, the net rental profits, which is very, very small and easily manageable. But when you're talking about the capital gain piece, there's no tax on capital gains if you never sell. So his strategy was, I want to buy 5 properties, one each year for the next 5 years. It'll exhaust my $70,000. And the reason why he wanted to do this, he wanted to leave a little bit of extra money in his Roth IRA to account for any vacancy, any unforeseen repairs. So he didn't want to just do 5 at once. Okay, that would have put him in a unique situation where if one property goes bad, he's now rushing to try to get money in his 401k. He wanted to just do 1 a year. Okay, 1 a year. So he does 1 property a year in his 401k. And long story short, he owned 5 properties in 5 years, all using the $70,000. Fast forward in time. Here's what's happening on these properties. He's got them all rented. The renter pays the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA pays the mortgage payment. The renter pays the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA pays the mortgage payment. Property values are going up. So the value of the property is going up. The note balances are going down. So that's actually decreasing his percent of debt over time, which is decreasing the amount of UDFI tax he has to pay on the rents. So each year his tax gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Also, rents in the area go up, right? Rents in the area in good areas go up, but what stays relatively fixed? The mortgage payment. The only thing that's changing on the mortgage payment is maybe taxes and insurance, but the rate's staying the same. So what's that giving him in his accounts? As he can charge more for rent, but the payment's the same, he has more cash flow. What he's doing with the excess cash flow is making principal pay down payments to the mortgage companies because he's trying to accelerate the debt pay down. He's trying to accelerate the debt pay down. As soon as he pays the debt off, he has no more UDFI. These properties are all owned in Austin, Texas, okay? He's going to have 5 properties owned free and clear. Thank you, renters. Okay? Owned free and clear with no more UDFI that he used $70,000 to buy. And these properties in Austin, I'll just tell you, conservatively, very conservative, $600,000 a piece. Conservative. $600,000 a piece times 5, that's $3 million. He started with a $70,000 traditional IRA, converted it to a Roth IRA. Bought 5 properties subject to with just the $70,000. Put a renter in there to pay off the notes. And by the time he's 59 and a half, he'll own $3 million of tax-free, free and clear property in his Roth IRA that he can reinvest or cash flow all the way through retirement. Guys, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a genius to do this stuff. It just takes a little bit of education and doing them in the right types of accounts with the right types of strategy. So even if you buy debt leveraged property in a Roth IRA, you can still manage the debt as long as you just hold the debt, hold the properties until the debt's paid off. Okay? So let's talk more about little hinges swing big doors. Let's talk about wholesaling now. Let's talk about an actual strategy that you can profit today on and pay for current expenses like healthcare and education expenses. This is a client of mine, Alex. Alex has 4 kids that all go to private school. Private school is expensive. I talk to parents every day. Private school is one of the biggest expenses that they have on a monthly basis. It's forcing parents to go get second jobs. It's crazy, right? Now let's talk about Alex, my client Alex. Now he has 4 kids that go to private school. Now I've talked to a lot of parents and private school is expensive. I mean, most parents nowadays, in order to put 4 kids through private school, they're getting second and third jobs. It's crazy. And Alex was actually making really good money. So it wasn't the money thing for him. It was the fact that taxes were eating him alive. He's a real estate broker, right? Very successful real estate broker, high tax bracket. But every dollar he makes, he keeps 50 cents of. So when he's looking at his bills and realizing there's got to be a better way to pay for education expenses versus me going out and making 20 grand, give 10 grand to Uncle Sam, and then what I'm left over with, go pay for private school. So he came to one of my classes, he learned about the ESA. He immediately opened up an ESA, an educational savings account, Coverdell Education Savings Account for each of his kids. Now here's how these accounts work. You set one up for each of your children. As soon as they have a social security number, they can have an ESA. The contributions are relatively small, $2,000 per child per year, but that's not where the magic happens. It's what you do with the money once it's in there, okay? Wholesaling. Great strategy in an ESA. Why? Because all you need to do the investment is just an earnest money deposit. So do you have to put $2,000 in each of your kids at Coverdell? No. He didn't even do that. He set up 4 Coverdells, one for each of his kids, and he put in $125 into each account. Why? Because he knew he can structure a deal and get a property under contract with a $500 earnest money deposit. And why did he have 4 different accounts? Because he's got 4 kids, and each account benefits each individual child. Okay? And they all go to private school. So here's what he did. He set up 4 ESAs. Okay? They each have their own name. Directed Trust Company, FBO, Maria Sanchez. ESA number, yada, yada, yada. Directed Trust Company, FBO, Omar Sanchez, yada, yada, yada. He went out and found a property to put it under contract, a property that had some equity in it. He made the buyer the ESAs, not him personally. Okay? So ESA number 1, ESA number 2, ESA number 3 are all on the buyer line. The $500 earnest money deposit comes from Directed Trust Company. So he sends us the contract, we sign the contract, he sends us a direction of investment form, we send the $500 earnest money direct to the title company, we take $125 from each account. 8 weeks later, he assigns that contract, he wholesales that contract to someone in his buyer's list, his end buyer. which made $40,000 in a wholesale fee when that end buyer closed. That $40,000 goes back to Directed Trust Company and split 4 ways amongst the 4 ESAs, turning $125 into 10 grand for each of his kids. He immediately said, cut a check to their school, here's their address. We took 10 grand out of each account, sent it directly to their private school, and that paid for a full year's of tuition for each of the kids. So 4 years of tuition paid with $500 and 8 weeks of work. Had he done that in his name, he would have paid for 2 years because he would have had to give 50% of that to Uncle Sam. That's just being smart about money. That's switching your mindset as an investor and doing a deal that's not taxed to pay for something you got to pay for anyways, which is education expenses. The same thing would work for a health savings account too. If you wanted to do that with a health savings account, you could take the money out right away and pay for health expenses. But the more you can understand about how to properly utilize these self-directed plans, not only can you save for retirement in creative ways, but you can pay for expenses that you have right now. And once you start paying for expenses you have right now with tax-free dollars, you realize there's more money left over at the end of the day because you're not getting taxed on every dollar that you make. So as we wrap up, what I really want you guys to think about is matching the type of self-directed plan with the type of strategy and your need for money. Do you need money today? Do you need money tomorrow? Do you need both, right? At what point do you need money today? Maybe you do some deals in an HSA or an ESA. Maybe you put some more deals on the shelf with some creative financing in a Roth IRA or Roth 401k. You maximize the tax benefit by being more efficient with your plans. That's a little bit advanced strategy, but nobody else is going to teach this to you guys. Most self-direct IRA custodians are just going to tell you, yeah, you can self-direct, go figure it out. I'm trying to give you guys more tools in your tool belt so you can really think about this and strategize better and live tax-free for the rest of your life. But here's my challenge to you. We have a special promo code strictly for Ron Legrand students. It's the best promo we have, but you got to act now because there's a limited time to take advantage of this promo code. Open an account, any account, 401k, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, ESA, HSA, and use the promo code Legrand99. You get your application fee waived and you get the administration fee for a reduced cost of just $99 for the first year for each account you open. Normally, this cost is $395 a year, so you're saving well over $300 by being a Ron Legrand student and using the promo code Legrand99. Click on the promo code if you want to book a call with one of our certified IRA specialists. They can help walk you through the application. They can also answer any questions that you have regarding accounts. So if you want to book a call, click on the promo code. If you want to just open an account and you're ready to go, just go to our website. You'll find all the applications online. Make sure to use the code Legrand99 and get that special promo code. It'll give you a great head start to earning tax-free dollars in 2024 for all your self-directed plans. That's it, guys. I hope this was helpful to you. There's a lot more education out there. If you want to check out our YouTube page, we've got a Directed IRA YouTube page where I do about 2 different workshops a month. But I really hope this was helpful to you guys. And please reach out to me. Again, my name is Nate Hare. I'm the executive director at Directed Trust Company. We're based in Phoenix, Arizona. We're the fastest growing self-directed IRA company in the nation. We've got about 15,000 clients in only a couple years, and we've got almost $2 billion in assets under management. So we're growing fast. You're going to hear a lot about us, and I'd love for you guys to be a part of the Directed IRA family.